Hi, I'm Richard Semmons from SEN TALK. Welcome to the very first of our live streamed parent talk sessions, when we're going to be covering a wide range of neurodiverse subjects, talking to neurodiversity professionals and advocates. We're going to be covering a wide range of subjects, including epilepsy, ADHD, Tourette syndrome. Tonight, we're focusing on OCD. Just a few little bits and pieces about the session. If you're watching it live with us, feel free to add your comments and questions down below, and we will try to include those as much as possible during the session. If you're watching the recording, thank you, and again, welcome to join us. And again, you feel free to add comments in there, and we will respond to that and get the discussion going. So tonight we're focusing on OCD. And we're very pleased to have with us Max Green. Welcome, Max. A quick introduction for him. You're an ambassador for the National Autism Society. You're a YouTuber and actor. And I believe, as well as OCD, which is obviously your chosen specialized subject for tonight, you're autistic, you have ADHD and epilepsy. So we'll hopefully later on sort of talk about how those all relate together. So thanks for joining us, Max. Maybe to kick off with, there are a lot of myths about OCD and what it is. Maybe you could just give us a flavour of what OCD is and how it affects you personally.
So, I mean, my OCD, I've always kind of met, I suppose, two types of OCD. So one is someone will have to have something that way because it just has to be that way, to the point where they will keep on going over and over and over on it. And it's not so much because it's got to look like that or it has to be like that. It's just something that makes them, some feeling, some impulsion that makes them feel like it's got to be that way, to the point where they will do it over and over and over again. The other OCD and how it affects me is I grew up and I would find a OCD. I find that you'll always have like a ritual, you'll always have something that you'll be doing. And the way that my OCD affected me was more, it progressed over time. So at first, I think because the autism as well, my OCD started off quite logically. And then it started going really unlogical, to the point where I would think, if I don't do this, or if I don't wash my hands 10 times, or if I don't look 100 times before crossing the road, I used to think like my mum or dad would die. And I would somehow think, I suppose, that by performing these actions, it could change some predetermined fate that was already out there. So that's kind of how my OCD really kind of blossomed in the end.
So it's quite interesting. There's these sort of two aspects to it. There's the bit that I suppose other people see, which are the rituals, the repeat behaviours. But then there's they aren't there just necessarily on their own. There is a driver to them, I suppose. Which are these negative thoughts, which obviously people from outside aren't necessarily aware of. And also those, as you mentioned, those thoughts are or can be very illogical. They don't necessarily make sense. And comments that I've heard people make saying, oh, if you know they're illogical, why do you respond to them? Why can't you just sort of park them and get on with things? How does that work with you? I mean, what is your response to these thoughts when they come?
I think you hit the nail on the head. We're very aware that they're unlogical, and if I actually don't do this, what's the likelihood of my mum dying going to happen? And in our heads, we know, actually the likelihood of that happening is not very high, but the anxiety and the worry of taking the risk, because in our head, taking that risk, and if it was to happen, how bad we would feel, because we would automatically blame ourselves. We automatically reform into doing it again. And the worst thing is, as well, is it for me, it got worse. For instance, as I say, my first obsession was poison. I was obsessed with being poisoned. I remember at school, I sat down on a chopped down tree, and it had like a mushroom on the back, and someone said, "Oh, you want to wash your hands because it could be poisonous." So again, very logical, I suppose, worry of being poisoned. Very logical. Didn't want to eat anything. Mum would always have to take a bite out of anything that she made me because I'd be petrified that I'd be poisoned. That then went on to germs. So I was obsessed with germs, not so much wanting to be clean. I didn't really care if I was clean or not, but I just didn't want to have germs and get ill. So then I carried on washing my hands, and then my hands got red raw to the point where I needed hand cream. The next obsession was weight. So someone said, "Oh, you're looking a bit fat." So I was obsessed with my weight for 3 years. So I wouldn't eat. I was living off tuna sandwich and a packet of soft mints a day, and that carried on for 3 years. And then that was when the bad luck one happened. It automatically formed into, I suppose, I got quite down and quite depressed. So I didn't really want anything else bad happening in my life, and then that's what triggered the kind of bad luck obsession. And again, it does evolve, because with autism you do have a bit of logic to it. So for instance, I wouldn't just want to wash my hands 5 times. It would then go to 10, it would then go to 15, it would then go to 20, and by the time you wanted it to be perfect, I do that because there was never a perfect. By the end, I mean, I can honestly say crossing a street was horrible for me, because I would have to look 100 times left and right before I could, put my foot off the pavement and walk in, just across a road. So, and that's how it evolved. And again, we know, especially having autism as well, because you have that logical, we really only worry and have anxiety about logical things. Sometimes we might over worry about logical things, but to us, I think it was Anne Hegarty that said, the two conditions are quite hard to deal with if you've got both of them, because you've got autism, which is quite logical. You have your routine because that's how your day goes and that's how your brain functions, and that's quite logical. You have your rituals, you have your routine for that to work. As OCD, it's like, don't wash your hands, why? Or mum might die. It's a very one end of each. So it can be quite hard to battle both, I think.
Yeah, well, thank you for giving us that sort of broad overview of how it's affected you. It's interesting. Whenever you meet somebody with OCD, you get the snapshot of them at that time, I suppose, with whatever their obsessions and compulsions are at that point. But there is that variety, that development of them, where you were saying that something becomes not just a ritual, but the ritual becomes, bigger numbers get associated with it. So in fact, it sounds as if it's something that sort of develops and morphs itself, I suppose, over time. And that, to a degree, is sort of slightly out of your control, I suppose, as well. You're never quite sure in which direction it's going. So it sounds very time-consuming, frustrating, and I suppose debilitating for you as well.
Yeah, and I think as well, the more it morphs and the more it evolves, you also get better at hiding it. Some of the and that's might be why we don't see it a lot, because people with OCD do want to hide it, because they have a sense of, I suppose, they think if they tell somebody, they might seem to be odd or weird or strange, and all of the above. And really, it's just how the condition's affecting them. I'm sure there might be some people listening that think, I know, there might be some people watching that I know that have gone, I knew Max growing up. I can't remember him walking, across 100, crossing the road, and all that stuff. I know people noticed it, because I remember at the time, I had a few people who would bring it up. Some people picked on me for it. Some people, didn't understand. Some people would wait and watch me do it because they wanted to see it. And that's the more frustrating thing, is you want to control it, and you know that you can, but with the thoughts that are happening, you kind of think you're protecting others, and they're more valuable than you, so you'd prefer to look a bit of an idiot or look a bit odd in order to protect your loved ones. And yeah, as you say, it is very time consuming as well. And I find as well, the more depressed I got, the less I done it, because the more happier I was, I had more to lose. And that's where the thought process would then happen. Or if you don't do that, this will. So, when I was really sad, it was like, well, life's what it is anyway. What's the point of doing X, Y, and Z? And some people, it has the opposite effect. Some people will do it more when they're depressed, because it might be the only thing in their life that they feel that they've got control of, or that they've got in order. So it can be, flip of the coin, really, and of how it affects you.
It's interesting. I'm aware of a lot of this sort of. Well, it's true of a lot of neurodiverse conditions where people are able to either deliberately hide them or sort of accidentally mask them, I suppose, because they don't realize that what they do is, I suppose, different. So you end up in that situation that other people don't really notice that somebody has a condition, or how they might be able to support or help that. So and I suppose OCD has a slight, like you mentioned, has that slightly sort of weird tag to it, because of the deliberate actions, rather than it something such as autism, where you perhaps don't do things, or you're slightly more rigid about it. It isn't quite as obvious, I suppose. So yes, it's an intriguing one. And this, you also mentioned that you were thinking of other people. The obsessions you were having were what things might happen to other people. So it's this very sort of selfless type thing. It's not something you're doing for your own benefit. It's something you're actually doing for others, or potentially for others. This is interesting. This comes up in quite a few neurodiverse conditions. There's a sort of similarity in this, in that you're quite selfless, and you're doing things or thinking about other people as much. From your perspective and from your experience, what are the things that have helped your OCD, in terms of either people around you, or any medication or treatments you might have had?
Yeah, so I think Tanya just messaged in as well with that kind of same comment. So I tried CBT. I had a good support from my friends and my family, but I did try control behavior therapy, and it, for me, sadly, it didn't work. I understood the thought process of it, and I found, let me rephrase. I found it worked to begin with, but I think when I was getting my OCD, unfortunately, it was near the end of my CAMS treatment, because when you turn a certain age, unfortunately, I think they are a bit quick to kind of, big world now, get on with it. So I found it was helping at first. Throughout the years, I had these different OCDs, obsessions anyway, and had therapy for them at clinic, and didn't feel that they worked a lot anyway. But when I started doing the CBT, I did feel that started to work, and then I was then get on with life. And it was a kind of odd. It was a hard time of my life, because I was in the last year of school and all these stuff, and this was happening. So yeah, in the end, what did help, which I'm not a strong advocate of, because I think you should try anything and everything before you go to medicine, but in the end, medicine was the ultimate driving factor, which which, you know, I'm still on medication now for my OCD, and also they are a form of antidepressant as well, which in the end did help me. But I think the tablets wouldn't have worked if I didn't have the support of my friends and family, just because you need that supportive network around you. I remember the night I stopped doing my rituals, because I used to have to walk my friends home, and then I used to have to walk down the road, jump on every draining board that was there, look 100 times before crossing the road. And a lot of the time I'd have to go back down where we all used to hang out as well, which was the park. And I used to have to retrace every one of my steps, because I was obsessed with the fact that I'd dropped something, and if I had, you know, something would happen to someone I loved. So I would then have to do that as well. So anyway, in the end, my mate did turn around to me. I've just started the medicine as well, and he said, you know, just walk home, you know, nothing's going to happen. And I did. And then my dad said later that night, because I used to have to do rituals at night as well. I mean, I was up at 12 o'clock emptying the dishwasher. You know, it was ridiculous. And my dad said, you know, don't do it. And I didn't. And from that point, I didn't do them again. There's still a few things that I do. Always check if the door's locked, you know, always check that the tap's off, because true story, I did flood my house one night because I had an obsession with wetting my hair. And I left the taps running and it flooded the house. So that happened as well. But yeah, I mean, I tried quite a few treatments and didn't really find that any of them sadly worked. But in the end, the medicine and the support of my family, I think did.
Yeah, it's I mean, like a lot of things to do with neurodiversity as a whole, everyone's different, and so therefore they will respond differently to different possible treatments. Just to respond to Tanya briefly, this is going to appear as a recording as soon as we finish the live session, so you'll be able to catch up with the beginning, and then it'll be available on our YouTube channel to watch whenever you want. It's interesting you talk about the support network. I suppose it's that difference between somebody, as you mentioned at school, sort of having a laugh about it, or saying, yeah, you know, why don't you just why do you bother doing that? You might as well stop it. And then somebody who you sort of trust being able to, in a gentle way, I suppose, be able to go, yeah, you know, I sort of understand why you are doing this, however illogical it might be, but, you know, almost you have my permission to stop. You know, and by me saying you can stop this or you can reduce that, that may give a bit of sort of weight to it, I suppose. And it sounded in your case as if that worked.
Yeah, definitely, because you'll often find that it's the people that, you know, you're doing it for, the people that you care about. You know, in your mind, you know, you don't want those people to, you know, anything bad to happen. So when they kind of say, you know, you can stop, you know, it's fine, you know, nothing's going to happen to me. And if it is, then it's not your fault. You know, sometimes it's just that reassurance. As it's the people that take the mick and laugh, actually, you couldn't care what they think anyway, because you're not doing it for them. You know, in your mind, you're thinking, well, you know, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it, you know, for the people I love. And unfortunately, you know, people will be people. People will laugh. People will think it's odd or mad, and really, you know, they shouldn't. You know, they should just, if anything, see somebody who's going through something and offer that bit of support. But unfortunately, people seem to laugh at the unknown. You know, some people seem to get a dig out of it or get a laugh, and in reality, you know, I can honestly say, you know, did it hurt my feelings? Yeah. But did I carry on doing it? Yeah, because I cared about the people more than what they thought. So yeah, that's kind of why I carried on.
It must be quite, I suppose it's isolating, because you're aware that you do something different, but then it's then sort of further isolating when people don't understand, because you are doing it, as you say, for somebody that is related to you and not related to them. So that sort of separates you, and I suppose it's that very difficult then to turn it around and be able to say, to yourself that, in order to get some support, I need to talk to people about this. I need to be possibly more open about it. And there, I suppose that then the family and friends who are the people who are in your obsessions, those are the people who I suppose are the key, the key characters and the key people to, at least at first. Yes, it's intriguing from somebody who knowing I was doing this this session. It was I was doing my research on it, and it dispelled quite a few myths of my own. It's an intriguing thing to see from the outside. As you talked about the medication side of things and CBT, how are the sort of OCD support networks developed? Because I know in different neurodiverse conditions they're better than others. Are there local groups that's where you could network with other people with OCD?
I'll be honest. I mean, I am really not sure on that, to be honest. I mean, I think, again, because anytime I was going through OCD, I always really kept it to myself. And again, it comes with the fact that I suppose you feel a bit ashamed or you feel a bit embarrassed because of that. So you don't really try to seek any person who may have it, because you really believe, no one's going to have this unlogical thought in their head, and that can be tough, because they could, I'd done an interview with with the Aspie World, and we spoke about OCD, and it blew my mind actually of how much we thought alike, and some of the rituals and routines that we have. So it made me go, oh my God, there's someone out there that thinks like me. And I would definitely suggest to a lot of people, if you're going through anything like OCD and you think that no one is having the same thoughts or the same routines or processes in their head, they are. There's people out there. And it'd be a good thing, actually, as you say, Richard, to find a supportive group nearby, maybe, that can talk about it and be open about it. Because as much as clinic and CAMS can help, at the end of the day, I don't think there's anything like talking to somebody with it. They may have seen 170,000 cases, but have they been up at 1 o'clock doing the dishwasher? That's the thing. So, and there's going to be someone out there that probably has. So, communication, I think, as you say, is key. If you can talk about it and have that chat with somebody, then you may find it you can help each other through that.
I think it's when I was trying to find some sort of numbers on it, and the suggestion was it was sort of 1 to 2% of the population have OCD, but then, as you say, you end up able to hide it in a more public space. So unless you know that somebody that you've met or you're working with is also OCD, you both of you might actually be at hiding it from each other, I suppose. I think as well. I mean, there are resources out there, even if it is there are not necessarily many groups. There's a lot of information out there which sort of gives it from both the person with OCD side of things and also family and friends. And I'll add a few of the links that I found recently into the description below the video. And I think from what you were saying as well, from if you as a person think that you may have some sort of OCD traits, then it's that honesty and being prepared to talk about it, however weird or different it might make you out to be. I mean, I think you've been very fortunate with a very, very supportive family and supportive friends who've gone along with it. I would imagine there are others who are in a sort of less supportive environment. Just as a final thought, obviously the people watching this video won't necessarily be as closely related to people with OCD. what do you think people can do in general to better understand OCD? I mean, this video will hopefully help, but it's that. What are the easiest ways for people to sort of get their head around it and try and describe it to others?
It's a good question. You know, I do a lot of ambassador work for the National Autism Society as well, and I think we face this problem, you know, every day. You know, of what can we do to make sure that people are informed and aware of not only, you know, obviously a lot of the work I do around is with autism, but I also mention the other conditions. You know, I've got autism, I've got ADHD, OCD, epilepsy. I did have Tourette's at one point because the medicine I was on caused me to have a side effect of Tourette's, which is why I'm kind of an advocate, you know, to try every avenue before you try medicine. You know, the awareness, I think, is people have obviously got to speak about it. You know, don't feel ashamed, don't feel that you're odd, don't feel that you're weird. You know, because there will be people out there that do the same stuff. There will be people out there that are going through the same thing. And the only way we can learn is by listening to each other and having that discussion. As well as that, I think people sometimes, you know, they hear the myths of OCD. You know, some people will downplay OCD quite a bit. You know, people will always go, oh, you know, everyone's got a bit of OCD. But the OCD you're referring to could just be you like your DVDs in order by alphabetical. And if one of them's out, it would bug you, but you wouldn't have to keep going and doing it, you know, 40 times to the point where it's ruining your day. Or you wouldn't have to do it every day, you know, every minute, you know, to make sure it's correct. So, you know, people, I think, do have a misconception of OCD and what it is. So it's always best to do a bit of research and speak to people with it. And if you know someone's got OCD and you want to know why they do the things that they do, again, have that conversation, because it could be that their OCD, you know, they're having that thought in their head, you know, if I don't do this, you know, she ain't going to like me, or, you know, I'm going to fall out with her. And you could actually be a big solver of that problem for them. You could be the person to turn around to them and go, listen, you know, mate, I appreciate that you're doing this, and you know, I love you to bits for doing it, and to think that my life, you know, it means that much to you is nice, but you know, you don't need to. You know, I'm fine. And sometimes it's just that, you know, that supportive feature that somebody needs. And also go through the routine with them. You know, go through the routine with them. Say to them, okay, show me what you do on a day-to-day basis. Go with it with them. Okay, try shortening it. Try limiting it. Try doing it with them. A lot of people just want that bit of support, you know, want someone with them. I can honestly say, if I had somebody watching me, you know, if it was a friend, you know, crossing that road 100 times and my mate was just said, right, do 20 and then let's go, I probably would have went, yeah, all right. Yeah, because I'm holding him up now. I'm you know, and he doesn't seem to mind if I don't do it 100 times and what's going to happen to him. So I'm just going to go because he's getting a bit, you know, come on, mate. So it's just about that. But I also think, you know, the idea of having someone watch your routine, see how you do, even though it might be very uncomfortable for the person to begin with, but depending on the relationship, they might just want that, you know. So but at that point, you can then talk why they do it. You can try and shorten it. You can try and limit it and work from there as well. And obviously treatments, you know, just because the treatment didn't work for me doesn't mean it's not going to work for other people. I think I was probably at that age where I was probably too young and probably going through a really stressful time. You know, I've been in the last year about to go to college. You know, didn't have any GCSEs because my school didn't do them. So all of that added stuff probably drove me to a bit of OCD, you know, this and that. But I think those are key, you know, just let people know that you're there for them, and you're not in any capacity there to judge, but you're in capacity to care and love and nurture and make sure that they're all right.
I think that's lovely. Again, it's that reducing the isolation side of things, because that somebody with OCD is almost. I read a comment, they were sort of being managed by their brain, and so that it becomes very, very inward looking, I suppose, and sort of not oblivious of the outside world, but so much of your focus and your time and your energy being put on inward thoughts and how that might affect other people. So it's just those being able to sort of break that barrier and be a little bit more outward. We talked just a little about support groups. Tanya's posted in the comments saying that the OCD UK, the national group, has got links on their website to local groups. She'd recommend them to parents, and they also have online groups, obviously, which where you have a condition which isn't that prevalent. Inevitably the people are tend to be well scattered, so having online groups can help in that you can at least bring people together wherever they're based. Max, that was absolutely brilliant. Thank you for being such a very personal discussion, giving very much your viewpoint on it. Thank you. Your links are, I put Max's links to his Twitter, to his YouTube channel, where you've got lots of amazing interviews and discussions with other neurodiverse spokespeople. So do go and have a look and see what Max is up to. Max, thank you very much again. It's a pleasure to talk to you once again. And we'll see everybody soon, when we've got a whole session on Tourette syndrome coming up, and so we'll be publicising that in the very near future. Max, thank you again, and goodbye, everybody.
Thanks,